Hello, dear friends all around the world in the free democratic world. This is Dr. Choi Sunghwan speaking from Seoul, Korea. Long time no see. We had been busy making videos about South Korea's domestic matters. So we had no time to produce this English version of the news about South Korea currently. That was becoming about a kind of a political crisis and something more strange in politics and the atmosphere of the society is changing into such a kind of a despotism or kind of a totalitarianism regime change. In the excuse of the coronavirus pandemic and blockage and all those sorts of that kind of things, that now South Korea is suffering from such freedom of speech and freedom of a communication or a broadcast. This video also might get blocked by the YouTube or the Google system. The AI system blocks whenever you try to talk the truth. So, but I'll be careful about talking of the matters. What happened since Moon Jae-in took regime in 2017, whether it was a legitimate procedure or it was a kind of a coup d'etat, kind of politically very calculated coup d'etat. So I cannot make a conclusion whether the Moon Jae-in's regime is Moon Jae-in a real president or not? Whether Ms. Park Geun-hye might be the legitimate president until her term that ends next year. So there's a lot of some confusing problems occurring now in South Korea that you may not know. You are interested in K-pops or K-culture or all kinds of South Korean stuffs, but it seems in Korea it's not true. And as a doctor, and I am a specialist in psychiatry, so I am studying mainly nowadays about not individual psychology, but about the mass and the group psychological or psychiatric reactions. And I'm mainly focused and interested in those kind of things and happening in South Korea. That Korea seems to be beginning to resemble that the system of communist China that they are looking in. Observing every people and making people one person to look after another, not look after another, to watch one another, and such kind of a unfamiliar and troublesome feelings make me mainly disappointed, but I'm fearful that in a not far future that the freedom kind of a liberation, liberal freedom, or may kind of a democratic status in South Korea may change in a very dramatic form into a totalitarianism status like CCP China, not like North Korea. North Korea is not a communist. They are not a communist. They are a kingdom of that Kim Il-sung kingdom. So, and they have stopped talking communism in their constitution also by Kim Jong-il, the father of Kim Jong-un in 1997, and they excluded and they changed their constitution, communist constitution, into a social nation constitution in 2008. So North Korea is not a communist country, nation, because Korea, South or North, is one. Just like one policy of China, China policy. South Korea, the Republic of Korea's constitution is based on a one Korea policy too. But some specialists, even the specialists about the diplomatic or world matters, specialists do not know this fact. That the Korean constitution, South Korea's constitution, says that we have the right of the territory consisting every part of the North Korea. Even the Pyongyang, every part of North Korea is South Korea's territory in our constitution now. They are trying to change that constitution and make North Korea a dependent country. Because Korea is still in war. It is in war, and the North Korea part is not a legitimate national party. They are a rebellion party, kind of a Taliban or Al Qaeda, that the South Korea, the Republic of Korea, should demolish. But the circumstances at Cold War era that made something difficult to distinguish between North and South Korea, and looking at both South and North as a kind of a dependent nation. We can call it a country if North and South can be unified. And so it's the matter that current Moon Jae-in's regime is trying to change the constitution and trying to re-establish a peace talk and a peace treaty. Because Korea's Lee Seung-man, when the Korean War ended in 1950, July 27th, Lee Seung-man, South Korea, never signed the treaty for the amnesties ending the Korean War. United States did sign, and the Chinese PLA and North Korean Army had signed the treaty. So they are insisting to have a peace treaty again, and then the war would be ended, but it is not good for the South Korean side, because when if the peace treaty is confirmed, when North Korea collapses, the South Korean army cannot go up to occupy Pyongyang or Hamhung anywhere in North Korea area. But now, without the peace treaty, that South Korea had not signed the armistice in the Korean War, it's still in a war state that South Korean army can go anytime, anywhere to without violating the United Nations or any kind of a international law. So they're trying to weaken the Korean economy and industry and even the army, and make both South Korea and North Korea at a similar level of living, everything in economic or social and kind of a thinking. They're trying to make it unified. Trying to pull down South Korea to the same level as North Korea in order to make it make a federal unification status. That is the most dangerous plot that is ongoing under the Korean political atmosphere, and with the worldly pandemic of the SARS-2 COVID-19 virus problems and the vaccine problems in South Korea is almost a great failure, because actually I do not believe much in the effects of the vaccines will do, because it was so rapidly made and without care that we do not really know what the vaccines will do with our health. Will it really protect us, or will this humoral immunity, including that vaccines and antibody stuffs, rather than those kind of things, humoral, the cellular immunity may be more important in establishing our health condition. That I estimate that over 90% of the people who are immune to the COVID-19 SARS-2 virus they are formed from the natural immunity, innate immunity, not the forced one, what you call it, acquired immunity through the man-made artificial virus-like agents, which is called the vaccine. But I do not really underestimate that the efforts to vaccinate the South Korean people. What I am aware of is that the problem that the Korea's Moon Jae-in regime promised to supply sufficient amount of vaccines from all kinds of routes, from United States or from Britain or anywhere, as like AstraZeneca and the mRNA vaccines such as Pfizer or the Moderna, or even second generation, not mRNA vaccine, but Johnson & Johnson, Janssen vaccine may be of great use because they are the most large company, pharmaceutical company in the world. In the world. I expected both because I am a little against the vaccination, but I am not turning my face against the vaccination. I think if you can, you have to supply with the fullmost amount and the system of the vaccination system in any nation, including our Republic of Korea, South Korea, but they failed in that. The Moon's regime promised a lot of vaccines from the United States and Britain, but they could not get it. They broke their promise. And the vaccination in South Korea is not in a consistent, could not be performed in the consistent way. Such epidemic control was not, it was kind of likely out of the hands of the disease control institutes, or the vaccines promised to come in does not arrive in Korea, that we have to wait. And then those times, Korea did such kind of a good job because you did not see the news, even though in Korea, I have directly witnessed what is happening. Korea didn't have that kind of a catastrophic aftermath of that Delta virus or any kind of Alpha virus or Beta in Brazil or in China currently, or in India. We did not saw that catastrophe. Korea did well as other nations, other developed nations, that the people who died from COVID-19, the population is much lower than the deaths from a common cold or other infectious diseases or other more deaths are occurring in Korea in car accidents annually, and such as suicidal rates are highest, and the increasing rate is highest in the OECD countries. That so many people die due to committing suicide rather than the COVID virus. That in about 2 years of that ravaging pandemic of COVID-19, people under age of 49, the mortality rate, you cannot even talk about the mortality rate, the death rate. I mean, the people who died purely due to the COVID-19 CCP Wuhan virus was estimated under 20 people. Maybe for 2 years, it may be about at least lower than 40. What is that? You could die from common cold after acquiring a pneumonia or kind of a status. More people die of other diseases. Then under 40 is a very small number. But they are the administration of health and Korean disease control might be exaggerating too much and giving a kind of a forceful, persecutory to put on the masks, but South Korea people don't put on the mask in the room. They put on the mask when they're hiking or going running and the playground. The large places, wide places, they all are masked. That's kind of a stupid attitude towards for the distance policy of the coronavirus and they're so feared that they don't know what to do, whether to take the jab, take the vaccination or not, and they are not thoughtful about which vaccines are dangerous or not, and what the kind of a fatality or mortality or the serious problems that the COVID virus infection would. It is a very kind of sentimental situation now in Korea. Korean people are very, very kind, and they're very soft. They're very kind and very soft. They are very shy and yellow. So people tend to do what the authorities ask to do, not like the United States people, malicious, or the Great Britain's Londoners, or the Australia's Virginians, and the French revolutionists. South Korean people are very shy. They are very soft. They do not easily go against the authorities, and they follow every principles the government or the authorities teaches to do. That might be such a problem when it becomes to the current. South Korea is relatively, considerably safe from the Chinese Wuhan CSV virus. That's kind of a irony, but it's kind of an irony because South Korea is the most closest country from China and from Wuhan, excluding Russia and North Korea, but the North Korean territory might act as a buffer area for that virus to come from the land, but not from the sea or from the air. So everything is relatively blocked from coming in and coming out from China to South Korea and South Korea to China. So South Korea is now kind of a safe place, but using the corona statistics in a kind of a not good way, a bad way, a malignant way to give fear and to make people afraid about the disease and to make them aggregate or even to come out to the streets or to gather together for some kind of a demonstration or a action, or even they are blocking people from meeting after such time, a kind of a curfew, making it at 6 o'clock or 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, and you can, or only 2 persons can meet or 4 people can meet. They make those kind of regulations and change every time. And what I am disappointed about is that the statistics about the health status and all the coronavirus related statistics is maybe not be a correct, accurate one. It is much exaggerated at this point. Why? You should have come. Some of you fond of South Korea, Republic of Korea, and fond of Seoul might have come as a traveler in spite of this awful Corona pandemic. You might have recently visited South Korea. You have come to Seoul, and you might have visited Gyeongbokgung or Deoksugung or those kind of places where the main Korea's Seoul's classic places are. There is Gyeongbokgung, and behind that is the Cheongwade, the Blue House, which matches with the White House in the United States, where the president stays. There was a Tiananmen Plaza, Tiananmen Square. Square. We have a Gwanghwamun Square there, and in front of the Seoul Civil Square Plaza there too, that people could gather. People in 2002 Seoul and Tokyo World Cup, the Red Devils of Korea had marked 4th in that World Cup football game. Such about not millions, but not millions, but about 500,000. If it's full, people are full. About 500,000 could gather in the main street, the downtown, north of Hangang, in front of the original Seoul districts. And that is the matter that because Moon Jae-in's regime had acquired, they got this regime, they got the power, they changed the power through a candle resistance. They call it a candle resistance. That was through the gathering in the Gwanghwamun Square and the Seoul City Square. So, what the Moon Jae-in's regime is now most fearing, what the Moon Jae-in's regime mostly fear is the people's gathering in the Gwanghwamun Square and the Seoul Municipal Square. So they're making all kinds of blockades, and where they cannot make a blockage, they kept thousands, 10,000s, 20,000, so more than 20,000 of police and police cars, hundreds of police cars, and any place that people could gather in a great mass. They're afraid that people will rebel. which is now happening, and France, Paris, Melbourne, and London. So you should have noticed that if you have visited in Seoul, to Seoul recently. That's the matter. Korea's lawmakers in the assembly is making all kinds of law that are against the humanity, against the human rights, even though Moon Jae-in promised United States President Biden to remand the problems of Korea's human rights situations, like sending a balloon or pamphlets to North Korea, and not to oppress the voices of the people, such as in the YouTube, because they have the leftists have gradually occupied the cultural and educational and even the literature and arts and the broadcasting systems and the press. So there is not much space apart for the rightists or other people who have a common sense to talk, to allow their voice in the community of South Korea. They're oppressing the press. As an example, Korea's Moon Jae-in's regime's demands on Google to take down the news or video contents from the YouTube requirement is about 50 times higher than that of Japan, and 10 times higher than that of United States. What does that mean? I think Korea should just ban Google and ban the YouTube and use Baidu like communist China. It would be better. It's the same. They are restricting the contents too much. It's not the Google or the YouTube which is restricting the people from uploading those kind of contents. It's the Korean Moon Jae-in regime that is requiring the YouTube to pull down the news, take away the news. And a lot of YouTubers in Korea got busted. Just get busted, because if they get 3 times a penalty, they get busted. You know that. And our channel got such kind of a harassment too. So I'm very serious and very meticulous and careful about talking about the matters, what is happening in Korea. Korea is turning into a leftist totalitarianism, communist China friendly, North Korea friendly state. It is a very dangerous thing. and we cannot overcome that. I'm talking to you, especially the people in the democratic developed nations, countries such as United States of America or the Great British or the Great France of Napoleon. You are in the same situation as South Korea. You are gradually becoming a totalitarian and a civilian state by some sort of a main oligarchy group which are aiming some kind of a plot to control the people of the world. You know that, and it's happening right here in South Korea, and we know that, and we feel it, and we see it. We see it every day. We hear it every day. We don't believe in the Korean SBS or KBS or MBC News or news. We do not look at the TV news. We look at the TV news because we want to see what discrepancy the broadcasting news shows and what the real truth is. We watch the TV to discriminate them, okay, distinguish them, how much it is distorted. But when I see you people in the United States or Britain or France or Europe, I am really cared about you. I really cared about you. You don't know the situation. You don't know the danger that's coming to oppress all your human rights, your freedom of speech, or freedom of moving, or freedom of everything. So I'll be in contact with you about this news in South Korea. We have a presidential election planned in 2022, next year's March 8th, 9th. I'll be in touch with you with the most recent news from today. I'm really sorry that we could not meet for such a long time in this English broadcasting in 비상시국 emergent situation committee, 비상시국 국민회의 of Republic of Korea. Thank you very much. This was Dr. Choi Sunghwan speaking from Seoul, South Korea. Goodbye. See you again.